What to do when all the alarms are flashing red. Like, I want you to imagine that the sirens are going off, the red lights are flashing, there is a major disaster imminent, and what would you do? You see, you would think that you would take action. Imagine you're in a plane, like you're flying the plane, for whatever reason, the plane's going down, it's flying into the ground, the alarms are screaming, everything is telling you to do something, to change the course. And yet, why would people not do something? This is a fascinating question. I hope it interests you, because it's like, man, this makes no sense. No sense at all. The plane is going to crash. Everyone on board's going to die. Why wouldn't you do anything? And you might say, well, this is ridiculous. Of course they would do something. The pilot would pull up, take action, take control of the plane. But I want to share with you 3 scenarios. Number 1, there's a business owner, and he has costs of $37,000 a month. Current revenue, $22,000 a month. Every month in business, $15,000 loss. How much longer can they go on for? $15,000 month 1, $15,000, $15,000. Every month the $15,000 loss is happening. Eventually this will not be able to be sustained. They will go bankrupt. This is an example of red lights going on, and yet what is happening? A question mark. A question mark has arisen. Not much has happened so far. What about in a relationship where a partner's like, hey, if you don't change, if you don't lift your game, if you don't X, I will divorce you, I will leave you. And the partner's like, no, you won't. You haven't left yet. I'm not going to do anything. Or perhaps even on a societal level. I saw a report that said the United States inflation rate 6.8%. Like, that's a lot. That's high. Like, that's high. 6.8%. And it's meant to be, what, 2%. And the leader has come out and said, temporary. We think this is just temporary. I'm like, I don't think it's temporary, man. You've been printing money like there's no tomorrow. You've been telling people to stay home. People are quitting. There's not much work getting done. And there's all this money around. Like, that means inflation goes up. That means things get more expensive. My wife was complaining. She was like, dude, the petrol price, the gas price, it's costing $104 to fill up our car. It used to be $78, I think, maybe 3-4 months ago. $78 up to $104. Like, that is some inflation. We've got an AdBlue shortage here in Australia. Potentially the trucks that run Australia will stop running. Like Australia's a big country. We need trucks. Like, when the trucks stop, we have mayhem. And so this is a red light situation as well. We've got another one. So there's 4. We've got the business owner losing money. We've got the relationship saying, hey, we'll divorce. We've got the inflation rate, and we've got the AdBlue situation in Australia. And all of these, you would think that there would be one thing, would be like, hey, let's take what? What needs to be done? Action. Someone do something. Do something. Take control of the plane and lift it up. But no, that's not what's happening. And I've been thinking about this. I want to share 2 reasons. One, they are willing to accept the consequences, or they want the consequences, or they imagine the consequences will be less dire than they actually will. They're like, oh, if you crash the plane, the survival rate might be, 80%. I'll take a 4 in 5. I'm like, dude, you crash an airplane in the ground. It's not a 4 in 5. Like, it's a plane wreck. So an illusion about the possible consequences, an illusion about if they do not take action, that all of these flashing red lights, all of these sirens going off are a false alarm. I'm like, no, they're not. No, they are flashing red for a reason. They tell this is not an orange light. This is a red light. This is danger. Take action now. So one possibility is they have accepted the consequences, are willing to go into the consequences and tell themselves that the consequences will not be as bad as they fear. Second one is more interesting. And that is that it's a false alarm, that there is no reason to be concerned. For some reason, the alarms are going off, but in actual fact, there's no reason to be concerned. This is also known as lying. Lying to yourself. It's like, no, that's not an alarm. My partner won't leave me. My business won't go bankrupt. Inflation's gone back down to 2%. AdBlue's suddenly going to drop from the sky, even though we got no urea because China's not releasing it, and we're all going to do nothing. And then when the consequences do happen, there will be surprise. They're like, oh, I didn't expect it. Where did this come from? Wow, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to look for someone to blame. Because that's what you do when you live in illusion. It's like, that's your fault. That's China's fault. That's somebody else's fault. No, it's your fault. It's my fault. If the alarms are going off and I don't do anything and I crash the plane, then that's my fault. The crazy thing is I could grab the wheel and pull it up and start flying the plane. Taking action. Those alarms might be a false alarm, but I would rather that they were a false alarm and I took action and went, oh, actually, that's a false alarm, than to miss the real alarm and suffer the consequences. And yet, this is happening. This is literally happening in my world. I'm like, wow, people, really? Really? Is this where we've ended up? So, question for you. What is that action that you know you need to take? Now, maybe it's not red alarm, maybe there's just a warning light, or maybe there's nothing at all yet. But you know if you do not take that action now, then eventually the orange and eventually the red will happen. How are you going to identify what that is? And once you have identified it, whether it's at a green and there's no consequences right now, but there will be if you don't, or it's an orange, hey, you need to take action, or it's a screaming red alarm, how are you going to get leverage on yourself to take that action today, to get it done? Because that is what is required. If the alarms are going off, it's take action. If the warning light's coming on, it's take action. If you can know that the future consequences of not taking action are dire or bad or unpleasant even, then you must find a way to take the action. And if the alarms are going off, then maybe it's like, wow, we really need to be clear on what it is. Like, don't point the nose down, but maybe it's pull it up. But even if you push the nose down of the plane, you're immediately going to see that it's all going worse quickly. You're like, oh, other way. So even the wrong action will help you find the right action, but no action will lead to disaster. So those two questions for you. Number one, where in your world is the action that you're not taking that you know you need to be? And number two, how are you going to get leverage on yourself to get that action done? All right, that's all I got for you today. I hope you got some value from it. Very interesting times we live in. Make your choice. Your reality will be determined by the actions that you choose to take. Thanks for joining today. I hope you got a lot of value out of it. I look forward to continuing our journey into the power of systems to create results. I'll see you on tomorrow's episode very shortly.